Hi, welcome to Punchline Talks, the business breakfast briefers. I'm Mark Owen, and each week I invite a panel of business experts to review the morning newspapers, find out what's happened in their own individual business and their own individual business sectors, and finally, what's caught their eye in this week's Punchline. But before I start, I just want to thank our fantastic sponsors, Hazelwood's Accountants and Business Advisors. Okay, let me introduce the panel. Today we've got Jamie Sleigh. He's the co-founder and MD of Indeloy IT Solutions based in Cheltenham. They set the business up in August 2020 at the height of the pandemic. He runs the business with David Marriot. The first year they had 7 staff and a turnover of 1.8 million. So we'll find out the secret of their success and what they're up to now. We got Matthew Burke. He's the headmaster of award-winning independent Cheltenham school, St. Edward's, responsible for 600 students, over 100 staff, a turnover of 10 million. And he's up for UK Independent Headmaster of the Year as well as the school. So congratulations to him. We'll find out more about that, I'm sure. We have Talitha Nelson. She's the CEO of Gloucestershire Community Foundation. And last year they helped support over 400 charities, and she's just launched their Poverty Hurts appeal. And the third sector has never been in such pressure, so I'm sure we'll find all about that as well. And finally, never last but not least, we've got Ian Mean. He's the director of Business West. He's the ex-editor of the Citizen owner, Echo, Western Daily Press. He's an ex-Mirror, Daily Mail man, and he's off to number 10 very shortly on Monday, so we'll find out all about that as well. And also, what's his views on the newspapers, the local papers, and the cuts to reach as well. So let's start off by having a look at the national newspapers, courtesy of the BBC. Here we go. We have the Metro gives Sleigh marching orders. The Times, allies of Hamas promise to release 2 Israeli hostages. The Eye, sack me if you dare, says Braverman. The Daily Express, Sleigh's future TIV on the brink. The Daily Telegraph, Sunak faces calls to sack Braverman. The Guardian, pressure grows on Sunak to sack Braverman. The Daily Mail, come for Sleigh and you'll come for us all. The Daily Mirror, respect. The Daily Star, I just love the Daily Star. In the world of madness, we asked 100 people who was the most batshit crazy Home Secretary we've ever seen. Our survey said, well, what can you say? The Sun, we go inside Murder HQ. The Financial Times, which, Ian, how much does the Financial Times cost now?
£3.50.
£3.50. Apple suffers setback in top EU court over 14 billion Irish back taxes. Is this the start of all of them going into Apple? And that's the roundup of the papers today. So let's start off with our panel. What have you chosen first of all, Ian?
Well, as an ex-Daily Mail man, I've chosen the main story today that features on all the front pages and their treatment of it. And it's a very sort of opinionated treatment in their headline. Come for Sleigh and you come for us all. If you read their leader, what they're actually saying is that Sleigh Braverman, and I'll read you this, scenting blood, the Home Secretary's enemies have urged Rishi Sunak to sack her. That would be harsh on a politician who has simply injected common sense into the policing debate. He should resist. And I think he will resist. Why? Quite simply, Tory party and the right of the Tory party is a great supporter of hers. And I think if he did that, no, I don't think he will, they'll be in more of a mess than they are today. Of course, the Times, they were the paper which carried the piece that is at the centre of all this. When you write something as a minister, you've generally got to get number 10 approval. It seemed she didn't get that approval for certain sections. And in the Times, they've got a centre spread. And the headline over that is, she's useless inside the Tory backlash against Braverman. And I was listening on the Today programme on Radio 4 this morning, Mark, earlier, and Geoffrey Clifton Brown, the MP for the Cotswolds, he didn't actually say she should go, but he said she was very unwise to get involved with this. My view is that she'll stay. I may well be wrong, but I think she's got to be there.
But Ian, it's another case, isn't it, of a Tory party eating itself again. It's kicking off
Hopefully.
all over again, just as they're going into the last year of a general election, and they should be concentrating on a united front, and they just can't handle it. They just can't handle it.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, the writing's on the wall for the Tory party, unfortunately.
Okay, well, the big story will be how many of our own really good local MPs actually make it through. Okay, well, thanks ever so much for that, Ian. Always great to get your insights. Matthew, what have you picked from the papers today, please?
Mark, there's a lovely story in the Times by Eleanor Hayward, and the title is "Monthly Visit to Grandparents Can Extend Their Life by Several Years," and it's a study by the University of Glasgow, and they looked at just under 500,000 adults, and they said there are 5 kind of metrics of social connection. They said living alone, feeling lonely, having someone to confide in, participating in weekly group activities, and how often they were visited by friends and family. They said that even just once a month visits extended their life, or made them feel that, and it gave them support, maybe if they were going to the doctors, if it gave them help to make an appointment or to go and see someone. I just thought, we're living in times where, certainly for me, my parents don't, a few hours away. My wife's parents are in Australia for large parts of the year. We're not quite as connected or live as close together as we used to. And so it's quite nice to think about the times that we can go and see them, and what we could try and do to see them. And I think, we've all got pressures of work. We've all got things that we need to do, but I think trying to find the time to do that, it was just a nice positive news story, I thought, in terms of that, and encouraging us to reach out, to connect, and maybe not just with our family, but with our neighbours, with those that we know perhaps are by themselves at the moment. What could we do to help them, and just say hello from that point of view? And
it also helps all our mental health, isn't it? At the end of the day, and there's nothing like it. I think it's all about meeting people and seeing people, and that leads very nicely over to you, Talitha. What have you picked out from the papers today? Thanks for that, Matthew.
Well, just a quick one before I go on to the main one. UK ranks amongst the top 3 donating money, but lags in overall generosity. So the World Index shows that we're quite good at giving money. But when you're talking, Matthew, about connectivity, it's really shocking. But the 3 metrics were we're 58th for volunteering and 112th for helping a stranger. That's so bad. And it's CAF have done this report, but it's about connectivity. And I think, having obviously working in the sector, Gloucestershire is very good at connecting. I think we're in an amazing county of connectivity. But after the pandemic, the connectivity's loosened. And actually, mental health, one of the ways of lifting mental health is by giving back. Absolutely fascinating that when you give back, it gives you such a good feeling. And I've had donors come to me, somebody who's working in the banking, and says, Talitha, I need to give you my bonus because it's just going to make me feel so much better in life because I really don't get that connectivity. And at least by giving back, he feels like he's doing something. So totally giving back is great for us all. But what I loved particularly was that the article in the BBC News, Gloucester weight loss football team has changed my life. Now, I'm seeing this very smiley man who was looking rather large and probably quite unfit to looking very self-like. And it's basically a football team in Gloucester. It's called a Man versus Fat Football Team, and they train once a week in Gloucester. The initiative awards extra goal bonuses to teams based on the amount of weight players have lost. And he now feels much fitter and more confident since joining the team. He said that beforehand he would have been reluctant to exercise in public or join a football team, worried about the judging that he was the fat man. And, I've come through a fitness journey, obviously coming up through the menopause and coming up to 50, feeling really low in confidence. I didn't want to join a fitness club if I wasn't going to survive the hour. And it's really at this age where we need that encouragement. I've taken up spinning, another class which you can go and not feel left out. You can be a complete beginner or an experienced person. And I love there's something for men, because actually there's very little for men. And this team has done so well. And between them, I mean, there's nearly 8,000 players, but between them, they have lost a metric ton in weight.
Wow. Wow. There are 8,000 players across the country.
Yeah, 8,000 players across the country. There's a lot of people that join to lose weight, but also it helps their mental health. And he said recent team weigh-ins showed they'd collectively lost a metric ton in weight. Now, I just think that's the best story ever. And the picture of these really happy guys that are getting out and using their bodies and cardio and getting some mental health support is absolutely brilliant. So that's my story. I think everyone should get out more.
Okay, well, thanks very much. And you do look wonderful after your spinning, by the way. I just want to say,
thank you, Mark. I
take
take all the compliments now. Definitely take all the compliments now.
Thanks ever so much for that. And it's so great for your mental health. And and men are generally quite lonely. I think that's the big, we've talked about this before. Over a certain age, our age, you know, we don't seem to get out or have the network of friends other people do, females do, or you know.
Absolutely.
Thanks ever so much for that. Let's go over to you, Jamie. Great to have you on the show. So what have you picked out from the media?
Well, I've gone for a slightly less positive story, but equally as important, I hope. But I found a story in the Times yesterday on page 20, which is talking about Jersey, that they're debating and talking about allowing assisted dying on the island. And for anyone who's gone through any painful loss, where you have that moral dilemma, my mother passed away this year, having suffered with dementia for 6 years, and the last 5 months of her life, we lost her completely. She changed personality, and when you have someone that you love deeply sat there asking you to help them end the suffering and the pain, you are completely helpless, totally helpless. And we had to see the doctors and the nurses deal with that as well, and obviously they must deal with that on such a massive scale. And I know it's a deeply emotional and sensitive topic, but I do think that discussion needs to be much higher up the agenda, because there are circumstances, I believe, in life where people talk about humanity and being humane. And I lost my cat in August after 16 years, and the first question was, do the right thing. You have to end the suffering. And I tried to compare the two, and I think when it comes to a human being, that discussion about doing the right thing and the humane treatment, that same conversation doesn't happen. So I was relieved to see that the debate's still happening, and hopefully that will increase in time. And you never know, maybe we'll have the right in the future.
Well, you know, I know that Matthew, you live in Jersey and you're going to go back there shortly. What is there big news over there about this? Is it something that the population is pushing for?
I think I mean, it's a relatively small place, as you know. I describe it as Cheltenham on an island because the population is about the same size as Cheltenham. But I think, you know, there are calls and there are always kind of discussions, particularly, you know, around issues that perhaps we wouldn't discuss here. So even voting age, you know, down to 16 is something that's discussed a lot in Jersey. I think, you know, that they have the opportunity to do those. I think it's also a slightly different political system. You know, it's not necessarily party based. It's more personality from a political point of view. So it's easier to do that. I mean, yeah, we have discussions and debates over here, don't we? And there are votes in Parliament about bringing back capital punishment, about potentially assisted dying, but it's much more difficult to do when you've got a party system like we do, and a breadth of views with regards to it. And I think, yeah, there are arguments for and against both sides, aren't there, with regards to it? But I think it's always healthy to have a conversation around it, and to you know, to see what people think. Okay, no, thank you ever so much for that. Thanks ever so much for picking that as well, Jamie. I know it's sometimes very difficult to talk about as well. Okay, let's go over to you, Ian. You're off to number 10, sir. How come?
On Tuesday, Michael Gove is holding a reception for what he's calling Levelling Up Champions, and I've been nominated by the Stroud MP Siobhan Bailey for that. I'm not unaware that a general election is impending, so obviously there's something in that as well. But I'm proud of trying to do what I can for Gloucestershire, and I think, as an ex-editor of many years here, I feel that we've lost that sort of campaigning zeal in our media for all sorts of reasons, resource, whatever. What I'm trying to do, certainly in Stroud, is question and call to account councillors, particularly over things like planning. Levelling up, in my view, is actually a fantastic government policy if they can make it work, whether it be in education, housing, whatever. You don't see much sign of that, but I'm going to tell Michael Gove what I think we need to do here in Gloucestershire. He's an ex-journalist, of course. He started on the Times. I think he's one of the most capable people around, or perhaps Boris Johnson didn't think that. But no, I'm very proud of that, and we've got to shout more about Gloucestershire.
And of course, when I met him, he told me, which made the national press, he told me that he preferred Gloucester over Cheltenham. But I'm sure if he was in Cheltenham, he would have said he preferred Cheltenham over Gloucester. But there you go. I don't want to be cynic. Very quickly.
He's absolutely right, of course.
Yeah, it goes without saying. Hopefully, we come to your segment. I like about the papers, picking the punchlines. We're going to talk about the demise of Reach and them cutting more jobs again. So if you don't mind. Okay, let's go over to you, Matthew. Thanks ever so much for that, Ian. All the very best for number 10, by the way.
Thank you.
I'm sure you'll fly the flag for us very well indeed. Matthew, so obviously the independent school, the finances and running such an enterprise, it must be extremely difficult to balance the book sometimes and keep it all going. What's your number one priority, really?
You know what? It's looking after the parents of the families that have chosen to send their children to us already. I mean, they make massive sacrifices to pay the fees. In essence, they're doubling their money, aren't they? Because they've already paid for a state place through their taxes, as we all do from that point of view. And I think, over the pandemic, we were fortunate to be able to provide some money back to our parents because, we weren't in school all the time, and any savings that we made as a school, we passed directly on to our parents. And actually, the biggest challenge at the moment is potentially the introduction of VAT on school fees. And if I think about St Edward's just from a selfish point of view, the data would suggest that we'd lose up to 25% of our parents. If you add 20% onto fees, that would just make it simply unaffordable. And the vast majority of our parents both work, make massive sacrifices, don't do frivolous things with their money, but choose to invest in their children's education. And I'm one of those. I choose to do the same with my two children who are here at St Edward's. So it's a real challenge. And what we're trying to do this year is to try and create a war chest that means we don't have to pass that on. But at the same time, you've got rising costs from a utility point of view, from a transport point of view. We've got to make sure that we've got the best staff, that we're paying them the rate that we should. And that we're able to we've got beautiful surroundings here at the school, but that comes at a cost as well in terms of maintaining those facilities. So it's a really difficult balancing act at the moment, but ultimately the priority is to ensure that those parents who are with us now and those who are looking to join us feel supported, know that we've got their backs, and we'll provide the best possible educational experience for their children.
Well, I think you've said it all there. And thanks, by the way. A couple of months ago, I came to visit you there at the school. You showed me around, and it really is a fantastic facilities. It really blew me away. So thanks ever so much. It was a great afternoon as well. Nice coffee too. Anyway, thanks ever so much for that, Matthew. Talitha, I'm going to go over to you now. You've just launched a new campaign and for children, poverty hurts appeal. There it is. Can you tell us why you've done this now?
Absolutely. So I guess without going into the complex issues about what makes a thriving community, it really is about the rich-poor divide. I think any society which has a low rich-poor divide is a thriving community with low crime rates, high good health, mental health. And actually, we're in a county with a very divided rich-poor divide, quite a wide divide. So you've got the very super rich and people living in absolute poverty in the bottom 10% of our country. We have probably Cheltenham in the last 10 years has doubled in the indices of deprivation from about 10 to 20. So we have some of the poorest pockets of society in the country in our county. And we don't call them hidden, because hidden means we're blaming everybody hiding from us, that they're poor and they're hiding from us. This is about being overlooked. And I think on Ian's side about levelling up, we've got to think about what levelling up really means. And poverty is the root cause of all evil. It is low health expectancy, suicide rates. I mean, with the third highest county in the country with the highest male suicide rate. So we have a lot of issues, complex issues in this county. I would say not many of us are talking about them, and we're certainly not collectively collaborating about talking about them. So I am, like you, Ian, a big lobbyist around the important issues in our county, and trying to get people's interest, because, you know, it is a depressing subject. It isn't a feel-good story. But I guess for GCF and Gloucestershire Community Foundation, we offer some solutions, we offer some action, we offer some ways to get involved. Poverty Hurts is really being driven by the escalating poverty nationally. Lots of press around, we're at now the highest poverty the country's ever seen, certainly in modern times. And we've now got 1 million children living in poverty. But actually in our county, we have some of the highest statistics, which when we started putting these together, my team and I became pretty depressed. So we've got 41,000 children living in poverty in our county. Now, that is really shocking. That's a third of children. So if you looked into a school classroom, you would see a third of those children are probably struggling, their parents probably struggling to put food on the table. Now, we are not living in a developing country. We're living in Gloucestershire. We've got older people. So this isn't just about the youth and the young, but our older people are being left behind. So we used to do a Surviving Winter campaign seasonally. It was very seasonal, but we're seeing poverty is all year round. The cost of living crisis certainly doesn't stop in summertime, which is why the Poverty Hurts appeal has to be an all year round appeal. Now, we've got 10,000 pensioners that are going to struggle to pay for fuel. They are not going to heat their homes this winter. 10,000 older people in Gloucestershire. So that is very worrying. Now,
Talitha,
yes, there's a little...
I'm gonna have to move you along, because you've got so much time. I'm very sorry to stop.
No, that's fine.
But how can people help you?
There's a message around. There's an allowance, a fuel allowance that comes out to older people over 65. And I had one donor ring me and say, I have no idea why I'm getting this £500. I don't need it. So if you're over 65 getting a fuel allowance and you don't need it, then pass it on. We're saying if you can afford to, donate to the Poverty Hurts appeal and make sure it gets to people that need it. But the Poverty Hurts appeal is really, we've got £100,000 to raise by Christmas. We've already been overwhelmed by over 20 charities requesting 50,000, who are literally giving people basic human needs. So we are going to be overwhelmed this Christmas. So we really need everybody's help. If a business wants to do a fundraiser, we've got a fundraising pack, we've got all the logos. If you want to get behind fighting poverty in the county, then please get in touch. It's really, really important.
Thank you ever so much. And you are a champion at that. And the big trouble is, I get this all the time, as you know, Talitha, I try and support as many charities. I think it's 156 individual different charity stories we've ran.
Amazing.
And
amazing
times as well.
Amazing.
Good
and the
that.
charities are not, exactly. Charities are basically protecting our statutory services. So the moment our charities cannot support people, they will end up in the doctor's surgeries. So you can't get your appointments. They'll end up in A&E, and society will crumble. So we've got to support our charity sector because they are protecting society.
Yeah, something wrong with society when actually they should be caught by the government. But anyway, that's a different story entirely.
Yeah.
Thank you ever so much for that. Jamie,
Thanks.
Great to have you back on as well. Sorry you're going to be last, but someone's going to be last.
Hey,
always
the
last one to be picked at a football team, but we won't go into that. I'm not bitter. Jamie, so tell us about the company then. So you set it off. You've only got 3 minutes, but you set off during the pandemic. I mean, bloody hell, spells. It was a time and a half to launch a company.
It was, but it was probably the best time to start an IT company because the world needed to get online really fast. Schools needed to get up and running. Everybody needed technology. So don't feel sorry for me because the industry was definitely the right industry to launch in lockdown. But yeah, we basically started the company based on values, and myself and Dave, anyone that knows us historically, we grew up, we were taught to do things a certain way, treat people the way you want to be treated, look after others, do the right thing, and good things will come back to you. If you say you're going to do something, follow through. Those basic common sense principles that I imagine everyone's familiar with, which unfortunately seems to be lacking more and more in the world around us. So Indeloy as a business was built on 3 founding values, which is individual. You treat everybody as an individual. We're not just selling one solution. We listen, and then we tailor to what that client needs. DE is dependable. It's dependability. We follow through. We do what we say we're going to do. We don't let you down. And the biggest out of all of them is LOI, which is loyalty. And it's about looking after people, looking after others. So our whole mission is about having a meaningful, purposeful impact on our customers, on our employees, on our suppliers, our partners, through the use of technology. You've all seen what's happening with AI and cyber and cloud and all these other analogies that are out there. It's a very complex, very confusing world. It changes faster than you can blink. And our entire job is to simplify it, get rid of the jargon, and allow people to understand the right technology to enable them to do whatever that is that they're trying to do. If it's a charity, reach more people. If it's an organization trying to change the world with renewable energy, whatever it might be, it's our job to help them make that positive impact in the world.
Okay, fantastic. Now you grew very quickly, went to 7-8 staff, £1.8 million turnover. What's the biggest lesson that you learned in that time?
Oh, wow. Oh, there's so many lessons and so many mistakes as well. I think we grabbed like the wild stallion. We grabbed the wild stallion. We held on for dear life and tried to slowly rein it in. I think we grew too fast. We tried to recruit to think, oh, those extra people will help us do that role, but we didn't necessarily find the right skills, the right values that we needed. Businesses change; they need different types of people, different types of skill sets. We tried to take on business that we weren't in a position to deliver. We turned down business that we probably should have taken. I think it's the biggest lesson I've learned on these 3 years. I mean, we're over 3 years old now. We've actually exceeded 11 million turnover in those 3 years since we started. And the biggest lesson I've learned is if I had connected to those values from day one and understood what we were truly trying to do in the world and what we were getting out of bed for, I probably would have made smarter, better informed decisions. But then I wouldn't have had the journey to go through and learn that in the first place. So I think sometimes in life, you are where you are and you just have to take the positives and keep trying to do the right thing.
I think that's fantastic, and you're dead right. And you've got to adapt all the time as well, don't you? But no, thanks so much for your honesty there. Really appreciate it. And what a fantastic journey. 11 in 3 years. I wish I could say the same thing. Anyway,
Brilliant.
And that leads me very nicely to the pick of the punchline and to our very own wild stallion, Ian Mean. Sorry, I had to put that in there. I don't know why.
Is that a compliment?
It is a compliment. Grab the wild stallion. So Ian, the pick of the punchlines this week. We've only got a minute each.
Well, two stories really. One, the keys. You did an exclusive story some time back, was it a year ago, saying they're up for sale? I was involved in the Urban Regeneration Company, and Peel were a great supporter of ours and built the keys and helped develop the docks. It's now up for sale again for, you reporting, about 80 million. And I think this is the way of their business is changing. They're more interested in assets than actual retail. If you look at the keys now, there are quite a lot of empty spaces there, aren't there? Yeah. So there's that one. And the other one, something quite close to my heart, is the story you rang about Barbican House, which is the home of the Gloucestershire Music Academy that I've been trying to help recently. The City Council have agreed to sell the academy, the building. It does fantastic work with young musicians. And, you know, music in schools, as Matthew will tell you, has all but disappeared. Certainly in state schools it has. I think that's a great pity. And we've got a leader of the council here, City Council, Richard Cook, who's very much in favour of developing culture in Gloucester. So that's sort of good news. So those were two stories that I found interesting.
Okay, thanks so much, Ian. I love the way I said you only got a minute, and and he got a good 2 out of that. Anyway, let's go over to, you can always tell the editor of a paper. Matthew, you've got a minute as well, sir.
I'll try and stick to the minute.
The punchline.
There was a great, I love reading Punchline. I share a lot of it as well on social media, but there was one this week around the appointment of the new chair of Gloucester Rugby Charitable Foundation, Nick Brodie. I thought it's fantastic. It's great to see institutions within our communities putting their money where their mouth is, but also looking to support local charities. It's like Vested Interest has connections with St Edwards, but that's an aside. But I think, we talked about it, and we know, charities are really struggling at the moment. As a school, we try and do everything we can to work with local charities. I did the Big Sleep Out for CCP last year, and I've been hoodwinked into doing it again next year. But it's nice, it's good to do those things, but it's also great for you to showcase the work that charities are doing and the way in which people can help. With regards to that, I know you've got a connection with No Child Left Behind. We did a lot of work as a school with them over the pandemic around resources, laptops, and remote support for children who weren't able to access that in school. And I think it's really important that we do what we can. And it's not always about money. It's sometimes about giving time. It's about giving expertise, and those things. And so that I think there genuinely is a way for everyone to do that. But I thought it was a good news story from Gloucester Rugby Club with regards to that, and that says a lot from a Bath boy who will be at the game tonight.
and also, he's the right guy to do it as well.
Yeah.
Such a driven man.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for that. Talitha, what's your pick of the punchlines, please?
So I'm going to be very quick because I've had a lot of time. But your article on Poverty Hurts Pill was really, really appreciated. And our conversation about you helping over 150 charities is absolutely inspiring. And I think, like you say, Matthew, giving back is in many forms. Volunteering has dropped dramatically. Finding a trustee to run your board and trustees is really hard. So if you could have a little bit of time and you feel you could be a trustee on a charity, that would be amazing. If you can do a bit of volunteering, I was talking to the CAB, they need 100 volunteers extra to cope with the debt calls coming in to a minute. So giving back in all its forms is really, really important, certainly for thriving Gloucestershire. So thank you for the Poverty Hurts article. You've given us huge support, but you give a county-wide support. And I have to say, the underfunded and the overlooked charities, we've got 2,500 charities in the county and 4,000 community groups. We must make sure we spread the love. And there's a lot of organisations out there that are tirelessly working on the ground without the profile. And that's the work we do, is making sure we spread resources fairly across the county. So if anyone wants to give back in any way or become a trustee, like Nick Brodie, he's a brilliant guy at helping out charities, let me know, because I know a lot of charities needing some support.
Okay, thank you ever so much for that. Okay, Jamie, what's your pick of the punchlines? I won't ask you to stick to a minute because nobody bloody does.
I'll do my best, but I think Matthew and Talitha actually set me up on that one. But in the theme of giving back and sharing that expertise, it doesn't have to be about money. I actually I saw your story about the new trustees on the Piper charity, and I've had the pleasure of meeting Ben Caton, one of those, and Julie Kent actually spoke to us yesterday at our business breakfast and talked about her journey, and she's on 3 different boards as a trustee, and it just really hit home with me. I'm part of the Gloucester Quays Rotary Group. I don't do anywhere near as much as I could in the community, but you put so much passion and energy into building a business, and you've got so much knowledge and expertise, even if you don't think you do, and you're making an impact in your community through your people, through the work that you do. And how great would it be if you could give an hour of your time or a few hours, and you could commit to a local organisation and make an even bigger impact in the wider community. So yeah, I just mirror the same message. We should be looking at how we can get more involved as professionals, and it doesn't just have to be about giving money.
Okay.
And if you haven't been a trustee before, it's fine. Just be a trustee with all your expertise. It would be brilliant to encourage more people, business people, to step forward.
Okay. Well, that's unfortunately is all we've got time for today. Do you know what? I didn't have time to pick up my own pick of the punchlines, but I'd like to say it's all good. It's all good. It was jam packed. So I'd just like to thank my fantastic panel. Thank you ever so much for giving up your time today. For you, the audience, for watching, my brilliant and loyal sponsors, Hazelwood's Accountants and Business Advisors, are absolutely brilliant as well. And if you like the show, please like, share and subscribe, and we'll see you again next week. Thank you. Bye.
Cheers.
Thanks.